6 p.m. on June 27th, 2024. Let the record show a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.071 through 551.089. Good evening, board members, district staff, and members of the audience. We will begin this meeting as we do every meeting. You are free to join me in standing as Amy Shaw leads us in a word of prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this gathering of good people dedicated to ensuring a quality public education for all children. Thank you for a successful 2023-24 school year, and please be with our current students for a safe, productive summer, and especially our graduating students as they chart the next chapter of their young lives. Please guide this Board of Trustees as we fulfill our assigned role to help our broader community and especially our elected officials see and understand the wonderful work happening every day in our public schools to prepare all children for successful lives. Thank you for letting us live in a democratic society where we can elect state leaders who believe in public education as foundational to our democracy and who will work to see that the state of Texas returns to fulfilling its constitutional obligation to fund its share of public education. We continue to pray for the Jones and Stanford families in their time of loss and challenge. Please keep all of our Comal ISD families safe as they take some well-deserved time off. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. As a district, we dedicate all our efforts and resources to our motto, Growing Greatness. The board uses this motto to guide all deliberations, decisions, and actions. You will get to see all deliberations, decisions, and actions of the board in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in a closed session as stipulated in the Texas Government Code, Section 551, commonly known as the Opens Meeting Law. These items typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with our attorney, and real estate. For the record, the board members present are David Krasinski, Amanda Jones, Courtney Biasotti, Tim Hennessy, Amy Shaw, and myself, Russ Garner. We constitute a quorum and may conduct business on behalf of the district. Before moving on to the next agenda, I'd like to remind you that board will accept comments from citizens of the district and from district employees. Persons who wish to speak during public comment audience participation must have completed a form for this purpose and placed it in the designated location prior to the opening of the meeting. When board addresses agenda item number 3, public comment audience participation, you will be invited to the podium to speak to the board. The first agenda item is number 2, board recognitions. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Steve Stanford.
Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Chapman. We're excited to share some recognitions with you this evening and appreciate the students and parents who took time to join us to be recognized. Parents, I want to let you know that after we recognize the students, you will have an opportunity to come up to the front and get a good photo so you don't have to take one from the back row. And so we will let you know when you're available to do that. So we're going to begin our recognitions this week with a student who excelled in fine arts at the end of the school year. We have with us this evening Ms. Carolyn Sherwood from Davenport High School, who was named an outstanding soloist at the Texas State Solo Ensemble Contest for her snare solo. Of the thousands of students who participate each year, she represents the top 2 to 3% of solo performers in the state. Although they're not here with us this evening, her music and band teachers are Jeffrey Keys and Tyler McClendon. Next, we have spring stock market game winners for Central Texas. Two teams from Johnson Ranch Elementary won the first and second place spots in the competition, which challenges students to learn about the world of stock trading and investing, a virtual $100,000 in real-time stock market. The top two teams with the highest portfolio value, along with their teachers and schools, are honored, and the top teams this spring were from Johnson Ranch. We have with us one student from the second place team, and that is Easton Gold. The Johnson Ranch team is coached by GTT facilitator Michelle Weibrock. Sorry. In addition to the elementary honors, this year's first place middle school team for the spring stock market game was also from Comal ISD. The Lost Day GTO team from Mountain Valley Middle School won the challenge, making it the second ESL team from Mountain Valley to do so. And so the winning team members we have with us this evening include Naomi Castro, Mario Lopez, and Noe Vasquez. And the Mountain Valley coaches, Darla Blakesley. Next, we'd like to recognize students who advanced to the state academic UIL contest in various categories. So first we have with us this evening Jayla Bailey from Memorial Early College High School. She was a state champion in the 3A headline writing, and her entry was named tops in Texas after being compared to the first place winners in all divisions. We also have Natalia Campos from Canyon Lake High School who, in spelling. We have Rowan Hamilton from Smithson Valley High School in the Lincoln-Douglas debate. We have Camille Hansen, Hill Country College Preparatory High School in literary criticism and alternate and feature writing. We have Jacob Hill, also from Hill Country, in social studies. Also from Hill Country, we have Keshav Singh, who is in formative speaking and social studies. Also from Hill Country, Lillian Vickers in copy editing. And finally, also from Hill Country, Mazdan Watina from social studies. And the Hill Country coaches that are here with us tonight are Kaylee Correz and Troy Varvel. Oh, and we also have with us from Smithson Valley High School, Jonathan McKinley. And also I'm going to mention that we have Canyon Lake High School coach Charles Van Houten. And our last student recognition is a state 5A. Wait till these guys get down. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. All right, so our last student recognition is a state 5A qualifier in tennis from Smithson Valley High School, and that is Jude Bruce. So next we would like to recognize our softball coach from Smithson Valley High School, Amanda Wolfstrom, on her 400th career win, which was earned on February 17th at the annual Worst Softball Tournament. She has been teaching and coaching for 18 years, has been with Comal ISD for 5. She has been named Coach of the Year, UIL's Sponsor of Excellence Award, and served on the Texas High School Coaches Association Softball Advisory Committee, and is the first female in 91 years to serve on the board of directors for the association. Recently, she was nominated for the Jody Conrad Award. In addition to coaching, she teaches hospitality and tourism CTE courses. Our next honoree is the district's esports program, which started 3.5 years ago and continues to evolve, leading the way for other districts to follow. In early June, Comal ISD received the first Play VS Award for School District of the Year. This national recognition recognizes the district's work in providing access to esports and promoting teamwork, skill development, and the growth of esports in education. Tonight we have with us Ms. Sarah King, Director of GT and Enrichment, who will accept the award on the district's behalf. And our final recognition of the evening is for our very own Board of Trustee President, Mr. Russ Garner, who has recently earned the designation of Master Trustee after completing the requirements of Leadership TASB. The year-long program consists of 5 sessions, each lasting 2 to 3 days, and connects trustees from across the state who represent districts of all sizes. Annually, approximately 36 applicants are chosen to participate. Together, they not only gain a network of support, but they also meet with educational leaders and government officials, participate in a research project, and take field trips to see education, innovation, in action. your mom and dad here? And that concludes our recognitions. You're welcome.
Next agenda item is number 3, public comment audience participation. Persons who wish to speak during public comment audience participation must have completed a form for this purpose and placed it in a designated location prior to the opening of the meeting. Ms. Comstock, do we have any requests? No, we do not. Thank you. All right. The next agenda item is number 4, Board President's comments. So tonight, I'd like to highlight a member of our cabinet. So normally, if a cabinet member is going to leave for another opportunity or retire or whatever, we're going to acknowledge that person when they have to come up to present to us. But this cabinet member is not presenting tonight. So just on behalf of the board, I would like to express our appreciation for Ms. Supak, who has a great opportunity she's going to go to. So unfortunately, she'll be leaving Comal ISD. But on behalf of the board, and certainly I share this from all 7 of us. Jason could not be here tonight, but certainly I wanted to express his appreciation as well. Certainly when we went through the process to hire our new superintendent, who turned out to be Dr. Chapman, Ms. Supak was critical to that effort, and she was our right-hand person for that entire effort, and met our needs and took care of everything so that we could focus on our task at hand. And so, and for that and for everything else she's done throughout her years at Comal ISD, we'd just like to thank her very much and wish her the best. So, Ms. Supak, thank you very much. The next agenda item is number 5, Superintendent's Reports and Board Information, and 5A, Board Meeting Agenda Calendar. I'll turn it over to Dr. Chapman.
Yes, sir. In your green sheet in front of you, this is going to be our board calendar for the 24-25 school year. There are 2 corrections that need to be made on that calendar, and the first one is September 26th. We need to move to September 19th because that's the TASB convention. And the second one is May 22nd, moving to May 15th, which is graduation week, so we normally move that up 1 week. But outside that, you have the board workshops, and as the board had discussed, we're moving a workshop nearly every month, moving in the fall, followed by into the spring semester.
Excellent. And TASB is now called Texas EdCon.
Yep.
Yes, is the new fancy name. So board members, any questions? All right, so everyone can fill in their calendars at home. Excellent. Okay, the next agenda item is 5B, Board Assignments and Committees. And you can go to page 12. Here it is. Okay, and I have shared these with the board members prior to tonight, but just for the public record here. So our Comal ISD School Board member committees for the school year 24-25. For the Comal ISD Council of PTAs, the liaison will be Miss Amanda Jones. For the Texas EdCon, TASB conference, we have a delegate and an alternate. I will be the delegate, Russ Garner, and then Ms. Courtney Biasotti will be the alternate. The School Health and Advisory Council, SHAC, they have looks like 9 meetings throughout the year. Our board member will be Mr. Tim Hennessy. The Comal Education Foundation, we will have 2 board members serve on the Comal Education Board, and that will be Mr. Jason York and Ms. Amy Shaw. Safety and Security Committee, via the Senate Bill 11, is required to have the board president and 1 other trustee, so The committee members will be myself, Mr. Russ Garner, and Ms. Courtney Biasotti. The audit committee will have 3 board members, and that'll be in October at our October meeting. Those board members will be Mr. Jason York, Mr. David Krasinski, and Ms. Amy Shaw. For the district site-based decision-making committee, DEIC, 1 board member will serve, and that'll be Ms. Amy Shaw. We'll have 2 internal board committees this year. So we'll have a board operating procedures committee, and dates and times to be determined, but we'll have 3 board members that will look to review and revise our board operating procedures. That'll be chaired by Ms. Courtney Biasotti, and then it'll have Mr. Tim Hennessy and Ms. Amanda Jones. Additionally, we will kind of going forward, we'll have a standing board policy committee. So the purpose of this committee, we've just done an awesome review of our and a lot of work by our staff members, and so this is really more just an opportunity for our board members to serve on a rotating basis to make sure that we're all familiar with our policy and ensuring that it continues to meet our needs as a district. And so I'll be the chair of that committee, and then we'll have board members that 1 to 2 other board members that will meet occasionally to review sections of the policy. So plan on bi-monthly throughout the school year, dates and times to be determined. And then as needed, obviously for example, for a boundary committee for a campus, we'll have the school board trustee that represents that campus to observe that committee throughout, just for continuity. And then other times as needed, we'll have rotating participation. So, board members, any questions on that? All right. The next agenda item is 5C, 2021 and 2023 bond update. Mr. Malcolm Maroney. And that is page 16 in your board book.
Giving everybody a bit of a preview. All right. Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Chapman, thank you for the opportunity to present a construction update on the 21 and 23 bond projects. As I said before, we always start with this slide, and that's a reminder that these monies are provided by the taxpayers through an election, and that is very, very dear to us. These monies are hard-earned, and so we spend them very, very carefully. So we always remind ourselves that there were 2 bond elections that passed, the 411 in the first and 560 million in the second, and that was a rough outline of the scope. All the information after the meeting is also posted on our website, as well as the bar graph and project list. So anything that isn't covered here, you can always go to the website and see more information as well. So this evening, we'll go through the projects, but again, this information, I know it's a bit small on a presentation like this, but you have this in your handout packet behind that yellow page, and again, it'll be posted on the website. The project list describes every single project on the list because while we're working through everything, we want to make sure that we're not forgetting anybody. Just because you're further down the list doesn't mean that you get left off. And then the bar graph tells us where we're allocating our money. So again, even if you're not in phase 1, you can go there and see, okay, good, there's lots of blue to be spent in phase 2, and if we need it, phase 3. So again, we're always looking at the picture in a whole holistic approach, not just as individual projects, because it doesn't matter where you fall in the list, we're going to get to everybody by the time we get done with this project. However, in the in the fall, Mr. Graham and I have been working together, so we're going to be working together both on the financial reports as well.
Up until this point, about this time last year when I started, kind of the financing, they're showing you the finances kind of fell under Mr. Mulroney's purview, and so it's really a finance function. And so moving forward, starting in August, this will kind of be a 2-part. We'll start with the financials first, going a little more of a deep dive into these projects, where we've been, where we are, where we're headed. Not just the project itself, but the scope of those projects, because we have separate projects, but there's lots of projects within the project. We call that the scope. So I will start providing you detailed financial information in August. You do have some in your financial report, but again, it's kind of a broad view. So we're going to go dive in a little more detail. We'll have a budget workshop in September to, again, go in a little deeper dive on the finances and where the money and where's it been. And again, it just provides a little more transparency. So we are going to also get some bond software that will help our current software. Our current software only does year by year, and you have to piece it together. But these projects expand over many years. The software we're going to get will track that multi-year, so you'll always know where you're at. So just be looking forward in August for a little more detail on our bond county.
Dr. Challenge, you.
So as both gentlemen stated, we're changing the way that we're going to be presenting the construction and the finances. But I really want to take a deeper dive. So at that September board workshop, we'll really dive into this and spend some time on it to really break it down for you guys, going all the way back to 21 and 23 bond. But you will see it reported differently moving in August. Again, one of the biggest pieces with this amount of money, the more eyes that can be on something, the better off we'll be, and which is the way that we're going to transition for the foreseeable future. And then the second half of that bond, that workshop will be STAR data, and you'll get just a brief on that, so that'll fill the whole night. So it'll give you a lot more details, a lot more questions you can ask along the way.
So diving down, quickly moving through our project list, like I said, anybody can check that project list that's available on the website if they're not concerned something we didn't cover tonight. You can see it all there. But looking first of all at our 21 new construction, in this case, rate is good. Lots of work going out the door there as we start to finish out. As we finish out Belverde and Hill Country, that's really going to wrap up that quadrant. So diving into Belverde, we always start with an opening slide. Our project architect is Pfluger, contractor Skanska, and we're opening in August of 24, which is about 45 days away at this point. So let's go into the project. So looking at that, you remember it's a prototype based on Piper Ranch, that kind of C shape, phenomenal, really maximizes that courtyard space, which is great to get kids in the outdoor, give them access to that outdoor space that's still safe and secure. Plus, the engineering nerd in me loves the fact that you can pivot that and flex it to a number of different types of sites, which is phenomenal. Great work by the team setting up that prototype. So when we built this, we started with the administration and we worked around towards the gymnasium spaces. And so I always like to look back. So this was October of 22, before anybody cursed Malcolm's name here. So then we went into April, right before I came on board. And you start to see us coming out the ground, again, with that focus starting in that administration, working around to the large spaces in the gym. And then here we are in June. Phenomenal job there by Dennis and Jeff, keeping these guys on track. That's a very aggressive schedule. Lots of moving parts, lots of challenges all the way around, getting chillers, getting electricity, getting water, getting everything to the site. Fantastic work. So while I was out on the site the other day, though, I did look backwards at the building. We spent so much time looking towards the building. This is a scene of the parking lot of all the subcontractors that we have on the site on a given day. So just a phenomenal job. There's a whole army of people that are making this happen. And at the leader there is our Skanska project manager, Chris, who actually lives in district, which is a super bonus. And every time we do a site visit, he's there answering questions. He's got his iPad. He's listening to us. And then again, Pfluger and Meteor are our other partners. I'll say their names as often as I can because we're close to opening and they're going to deliver. So going inside, you can see the finishes are starting to come together. As I said, focusing more on that administration wing. Still a fair amount of work to do. We've got a lot of work to finish up, to clean and get out of there, but it's very exciting. There we have the gymnasium and the bathrooms, and then you see that casework going in. Of course, the last piece that drops in is the countertops. Moving over to Hill Country, chasing very similar. You'll see that their move-in date's about 5 days behind behind Middle School 8. That is because it's a smaller building. There's less place to stack trades and things like that, so we've got to get one folk out finished before we move into the next one. So going into the spaces, you can see that the front entry, we got the floors down, we got the drywalls going in, paint's going down, classroom spaces, the whiteboards are going up. This is a really cool collaboration space, some little pod collaboration to really bring kind of that IT feel to things, as well as writable surfaces. So that whole wall there is a writable surface, and it's magnetic. So great opportunity for kids to learn outside of the classrooms, to collaborate, small group discussion, things like that. One thing you might notice is quite a bit of temporary lighting. We are fighting with the utility. We've been hearing about chillers and boilers, right, for the last 2 years. That was our big headache, and we solved a lot of that front. Now the utility companies are really becoming difficult about transformers, and they're really picky about the transformer they want you to use, but they don't keep them in stock, and there's no real good way to push them. So we've been working with them very closely, and then once you get your transformer set, you've got to get your meter set. And what used to take maybe a week, because you'd have to have 3 different meetings, they're now coming back every 2 weeks, because they can't hire people just like everybody else. So I'm empathetic to them, but at the same time, we're fighting hard. So Drymala's done a great job not letting them slow them down on that, but it is now becoming a bit of a headache. But we'll have that in the next week, and we'll still meet out that July 15th move-in schedule. Diving into some of the fun spaces that we have there, we've got this large space that is acting as somewhat of the library, as well as the assembly space and the cafeteria space. Great opportunity to really try some different flexible furniture. Everything's on wheels, so it can be moved out. So if you want to do a large gathering with the whole campus, gives that campus a gathering space. On a day-to-day, it provides different types of pockets of space as well. So real fun design challenge for us. Our folks there at Indico have really stepped up to help us think of creative solutions to these challenges. Another one is a half-court gymnasium and robotics lab. And the fun thing there is it's got a folding partition, so you can close it off and use it independently, or if you wanted to have a competition, you can open it up and use it collaboratively. So again, lots of flexibility in the way we approach this. That's the robotics lab with the ceiling grid. They'll have power lines, so you can pull down power reels, so you've got lots of flexibility in that, as well as that mobile furniture. Again, everything on wheels, so it can be slid out of the way. So if you want to do an open house or spread out through the day-to-day operation. Moving into the next pack of new construction is 23 projects, which is our elementary 23, located in the Mayfair development in Canyon feeder pattern. And we have gotten started breaking ground on that. There we go. So we've got some drone footage there. You can see we're in the really nice clay soils. Lots of digging opportunities for our contractor. But I'm really proud of our team because we did. So the building itself was set on piers, and then all the courtyards and flat work will be on 9 foot of select fill. It's a challenge, it's a headache, it's a lot of time, about 3 months digging in the dirt to get that right. But once you do it, you're never digging back there. So all that should minimize, I'm not going to say none, but minimize any heaving and soil conditions, because we've got some great outdoor learning opportunities on this campus as well. Diving into our 2022, now remember that 2022 is the year that it started. A lot of these projects are wrapping up. It's some of our 2022 district security, the LED lighting, the film, some of the roofing projects, things like that. You can see those bars really kind of closing in as we wrap up that pack of projects. The one we're going to highlight here, of course, is our district playgrounds. So we started out, we identify all 20 of them, even though 2 of those campuses are new construction, and I'm really excited to say that Jeff and Dennis have done great. Now we're up to 15 completed, and 1 from how are we going to do this to in permitting. So that is fantastic news. So the 3 we've moved over, Robo Verde, Indian Springs, and Kinder Ranch are in the bag, so that completes phase 4, and that gets us to that total 15. In the phase 5, the folks Bill Brown and Hoffman Lane are tearing along great. If you remember at Morningside and Garden Ridge, we had some increased drainage issues. We're going to increase the size of those drainage ponds, as well as some permitting challenges. Garden Ridge was still zoned agriculture, and the town asked us to change it over back to an into a government agency zoning. And then Morningside, we had that water line that was never easement, so we had to deal with that and relocate the water line, because we're not going to put a playground back on top of it. So we're fixing that problem as well. So that does mean that Garden Ridge and Morningside will be going into construction in the fall. And we've been communicating with the campus. When I met with you last time, it was just Morningside. Garden Ridge didn't want to be left out, so join Morningside. They'll both be in construction in the fall. So we'll be wrapping those up in October. And then Timberwood Park, sewer line permitting has been submitted. We've got our first round of comments. It's looking good, so we're on track. Everything's good there. We'll be back in August with the GMP and be able to get that project complete as well. So that will put number 20 in the bag, which, and you think this impacts over 12,000 students across the district every single day. And for me, the most important thing is get kids outside. This is huge. So fantastic project. Diving into the upcoming projects, which are the 2023 projects, Again, we've got a lot of start in a number of different areas there. So starting out with our safety security, this is updating across the board, but we've picked an elementary as a proof of concept. So we're going to be tying the PA as well as the emergency notification, plus the phones, plus the cameras all together to update those systems. We'll do that, finish that this summer, and then be moving to a district-wide rollout for the next 2 summers. Davenport, Smithson Valley, tennis court will be coming in the fall. Smithson Valley interiors in full swing. There you see the picture of Smithson Valley bathrooms, completely gutted back to the CMU block and a complete rebuild. I think this has been a long time coming, and I'm really glad that we can get to it. And then the baseball, working through the upgraded electricity, figuring out how to change those poles over, things like that. So that'll again be working in the fall, assuming, again, those transformers still scare me now because they become a little bit of an unpredictable beast here. But we'll keep the campus abreast and make sure we're working around their season. Comal at Canyon Lake has kicked off with their parking lot repairs. They'll be moving into their grading, so they'll be there going into the fall as well. This package 1, Marksman, we'll look at this evening. That will kick them off, as Dawson is at Arlensay and Timberwood Park, which you see pictures of Arlensay on the right. So tearing out all that old HVAC system and replacing that with new updated HVAC systems. So you can see a lot of systems packages, what I fondly call the ugly bond stuff, because when you cover up and leave, nobody really knows you were there, but you feel it and the maintenance goes down, and that's a good thing for everybody involved. So that wraps up bond projects. We always have a little break and we'll go to construction projects. Just a reminder, and these are probably the 2 most boring slides I've got in my deck. And that is the improvements at the athletics for press box at Canyon Lake and the beach expansion at Davenport. And the reason I say they're boring is because they look exactly like the last time we showed you. So we are on schedule. POs are in. Parts are in manufacturing. We're confirming our dates for the fall, November 11th and November 25th. To bring those pieces on and be on site. So everything there is going exactly as planned. Remember that the Canyon Lake High School sidewalk that goes behind those bleachers will be going in the summer as part of that road construction project, access road renovation. So we'll get that completed during the summer. We'll be back with the press box in the late fall.
All right, that is a lot of stuff. Board members. Mr. Krasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, thank you for the great presentation, Mr. Maroney. I think if anybody has any questions about what we've got going on from a public perspective, I think you've answered a lot of those tonight. And I think reiterating here, this is all on our district website, which can be, which is fantastic. The only question I really have, well, it's more of a comment, but I stopped by and had a nice meeting with Mr. Maroney at Garden Ridge Elementary School. We walked it, and I kind of got a feel. I was always questioning why these playgrounds were running over, and now I kind of see why now, right? We had to increase some drainage, and it's an extensive project to the campus and much needed. So, I don't know that I've played on a playground in a long time, so it's been a minute, but this is going to be great for our students, great for our staff. But can't wait for these to be done. So thank you for all the hard work. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Krasinski. Mr. Hennessy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Maroney, going back to the playgrounds at Morningside and Garden Ridge, the time frame, I was going to ask what the time frame was, but did I hear you say they're going to be wrapped up in October?
Yes, ending in October, open in October.
Okay, all right. Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's great to be able to finish it that quickly. And then I'd also like to point out that your slide regarding DHS and Canyon Lake High School is not boring to us because for a long time we've been trying to do something for these campuses that are in great need, especially out there at Canyon Lake High School. They were in dire need of something being done. I want to say thank you to you and to your staff as well for getting that in process and kicked off. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Ms. Biasotti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for this presentation. Kind of going off what Mr. Krasinski said, I drove by multiple elementary schools, one particular by my house, 1 million times a day, and I had a carload of kids going to a baseball camp, and they were just so excited to see the structures come up. And kind of like what David said, it's it's a lot of money that we're spending on these playgrounds, and a lot of questions were asked to all of us of why do they have to be the same? Why are we making changes? Our stuff is fine. And when you see them come up and you see the kids' excitement, it's worth every penny. So thank you for that. I just want to mention too what Dr. Chapman said about the new procedure that's coming into place. When I was on the board originally, we got plenty of information about what was going on with bonds, and then you came on board, and we get these amazing charts and graphs and all the things and the updates. But it can be a little overwhelming sometimes as a board member, and so I'm looking forward to the new procedure where it's going to make it easier for us to understand and ask questions when we may not be comfortable in the construction world or the bond world. So I thank you for that and look forward to learning more.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo Courtney's remarks on why are we doing this for all the elementary schools, because every kid in Comal deserves the equity that each elementary school can bring, whether it's 10 years old or many, many more, which I went to one of them and won't say when or where, but it's very important to these kids and for you to take the look and the time to not only do it, but do it right with promises made and promises kept, as you have said, because like you said, these are taxpayer dollars, and to be very conservative, to be on top of them, while also giving every elementary school child a chance to have these. I've too have driven by many of them in all areas, and I just saw one that had just wrapped up close to me, and it is fantastic just to see what the kids' imaginations. I did take my kids by to go see it as well, so thank you for putting the time and the effort, because these kids are worth it. They matter, and I appreciate the work. And then also, again, the transparency. I have referred your website, the Comal website, but your specific bond to them with questions, and it has been extremely helpful because you are the expert in this situation, and I just want to thank you for that, because that's been very helpful for people that have come to me asking questions.
Excellent. Okay, yeah, and I just want to say I'm definitely going to take you up on the offer to go, because I haven't been out to Bulverde Middle School yet, so I definitely want to get a tour. So we'll set up a time for that at some point later when everyone gets back from their summer vacation. So excellent. No other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mulroney. The next agenda item is 5D, Comal Commitment Quarterly Report. Dr. Chapman.
Yes, sir. So here's your third quarterly report, and if you look up on the screen, there's also a QR code, and this will be the third one that is also listed. We also are sending this out to the CV committee that put this together to show almost, I'm not stealing Malcolm's thunder, promises made, promises kept, but we are showing them we're doing exactly what you said. And so you also received this week a link to a Google Doc. Has all reports that are going to be directly related to CV, DIP, and the quarterly report, and they will all blend when you get your annual report in November, December. So if there's any documentations that you're needing and reports, it's all going to be in there, as well as we want to be as transparent as we possibly can by making sure our community sees we're doing exactly what they asked us to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I flipped through last night, and it was pretty cool to see. So now, if you get to it on the internet, you can actually click on the videos links too. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah,
okay.
It's all up. If you click on that QR code, then it becomes a live document.
Okay, excellent. Questions, board members? Ms. Shaw.
Just a comment. There's a lot of talk. Sometimes people talk about, the school districts were only run like corporations. Well, no, that can't happen. But when it comes to planning the work and working the plan and working with the community to develop a vision and then making sure that, all of our work is tied to that vision, kudos to you, Dr. Chapman, and to your staff, because this is really, this would put any corporation to shame in terms of alignment, purpose, great use of resources, and very clear direction, and bringing everybody all along at the same time. So thank you for that.
Good. All right. Yes, I think we're all good with the Comal commitment. So awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. We are going to move on to the next agenda item, 5E, Gifted and Talented and Advanced Academics Annual Update Ms. King and Ms. Pinkham.
Good evening, President Gardner, Dr. Chapman, and board members. We are here to present you with a program overview and annual update of gifted and talented services, as well as advanced academics in Comal ISD. Each school district in Texas has the local control to define what GT services are provided, as well as what assessments are used for identification. In order to guide districts as they implement GT services in Texas, TEA created the Texas State Plan for the Education of Gifted and Talented Students, or as we call it, the State Plan. The State Plan has 6 sections, which I will explain on the following slides. The first section, Fidelity of Services, outlines baseline compliance standards for GT programming, namely that 1, GT funds are properly coded and used, 2, policies are reviewed and updated, and 3, assessments and services are in line with the state plan. This year, there were 2,014 students referred for GT services and subsequently evaluated. Out of that group, 602 students were added to our GT program, which brought our district total of GT students to 4,004. The second section of the state plan details the parameters for the assessment process, including policies for transfer students, appeals, furloughs, and exits of students from the program. Referral forms are available on paper as well as online, and in both English and Spanish. Referrals for GT services are open to all students and may be submitted by anyone, including the student themselves. Parental permission, however, must be given before any assessments are conducted. You'll see in the evaluation column a minimum of 3 pieces of qualitative and quantitative data must be collected for each student. This data is presented anonymously to a district committee of 3 GT-trained educators to review and make a determination on services needed at that time. It is important to note that there is no one individual piece of data, no individual test score, and no individual form that will result in a student receiving or not receiving services. We also continued our efforts to remove barriers to identification, and as a result, our district as a whole saw increases in every sub-pop except for emergent bilingual, where we dropped by 1 student. The next section covers the expectation to modify the depth, complexity, and pacing of the curriculum and instruction, which also includes developing advanced level products and performances. Jay Taylor's depth and complexity critical thinking tools serve as lenses or scaffolds for students to frame their thinking and investigate topics on a deeper level independently. This year, we have been working closely with Teaching, Learning, and Leadership to embed depth and complexity tools into our unit maps, Comal U courses, and of course in our online 6-hour GT professional development course. TLL will also be formally trained by Jay Taylor in August. The professional development section of the state plan explains that the decision makers for the GT program must be knowledgeable about GT. While this presentation technically satisfies the training for you all as a school board members, administrators and counselors, core content teachers, and GT facilitators must complete GTPD specific to their role, including 30 hours of foundational GT training as well as a 6-hour annual update. The state plan also guides districts to involve family and community members in services for gifted and talented students throughout the school year. Comal ISD is proud to provide specialized online seminars called GT Third Thursdays on topics recommended by parents via feedback and surveys throughout the year. These seminars also provide an opportunity for parents to give feedback directly on our services. Next year, we will start to incorporate more pre-recorded options as well as literature from experts in the field to give additional options to parents who might not be able to attend the live sessions. Additionally, an open-ended parent survey was distributed to GT parents to gain further insight around pull-out and elective course services. 57% of parents specifically highlighted the challenging and engaging curriculum. 18% honored their teachers specifically as the main factor in their child's positive educational experience. As far as areas of growth, 24% of parents indicated there were no areas of improvement. Roughly 23% reported they would like to see stronger communication from their child's GT facilitator, and 21% would like to see more time in the elementary pullout. There was, however, a very clear and consistent message in the feedback that their child blossoms in GT with the out-of-the-box challenges, working with like-minded peers, and having a place where they feel they truly belong. The next section of the state plan outlines the service design, or in other words, how GT services are delivered. At the elementary level, one layer of GT services is the pull-out model, where a small group of students work with our campus GT facilitators to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, along with all the other good stuff like goal setting and growth mindset. The second layer of services is cluster grouping, or grouping GT students with one another where possible in the core content classes. At the secondary level, the middle school critical thinking elective serves as an option for students who are looking for that continuation of the elementary pullout. Just like elementary services, secondary services also include cluster grouping students in core content classes as well as the advanced classes. I will now turn it over to Mrs. Tammy Pinkham to discuss advanced academics as a whole.
Comal ISD offers a wide array of advanced courses, beginning with honors in 6th grade to college credit-bearing coursework in high school. Our advanced course enrollment continues to increase each year through concentrated efforts at the classroom and campus level to keep students encouraged and engaged. The chart on the right reflects the total enrollments. It is important to note that a student may be enrolled in more than one advanced academic course. As you can see, in Comal ISD, 58% of high school students are enrolled in at least one course of rigor. Looking forward, we will further develop our advanced academics and GT parent advisory to help guide us in the creation of a 5-year strategic plan for GT. To bolster college career military readiness, we are also developing our first P-TECH campus at Hill Country College Prep, which will provide another avenue for students to attain their associate's degree along with an aligned industry-based certification upon graduation. Additionally, we will be beginning to explore avenues to bring increased dual credit opportunities to our comprehensive high school campuses. This concludes our presentation, and we would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent. Mr. Krasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Pinkham and Ms. King, for a great presentation. Quick question, just trying to understand something. So if I go back up to number 2, where it says 14% of students in Comal ISD are receiving GT services, and then I scroll down to obviously where it says service design and secondary. It's got pre-AP honors, that kind of thing. And you scroll down a little bit more, and you've got 1,700 enrollment increase. You got another number, 8286. So I'm a bit confused. How many kids are actually using GT services? Is it 14% or is it 8,200?
Yes, so I think it's important to clarify that just because a student is labeled GT does not necessarily mean that they're going to be in all advanced courses. And so it is possible for students who are not coded GT to be in those advanced level courses in addition to the GT students as well.
I see. Okay, so they're coded GT, you got 14% coded GT.
Correct.
And you have participation in GT services being a different percentage of our student population.
At the secondary level, yes, sir.
Got it. Okay, that was my only confusion. Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. What is the amount of time that in pull-out for elementary?
It does vary from campus to campus as they're trying to be responsive to the campus needs at that time and the class schedule. On average, depending on the grade level, we roughly see about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours per grade level for pull-out.
Per week, per day?
Per week.
Mr. Hennessy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. King, just for clarification, we talked about cluster grouping and about GT pullout. Are those two things that were, I know GT pullout because I saw my kid doing that, but cluster grouping, that's a relatively new experiment to me. Can you tell me more about that?
It runs a little bit kind of under the radar. So whenever campuses are looking at their master scheduling, grouping according to the state recommendation is a group of 4 as a minimum. And so whenever they're looking at that master schedule, making sure that they have at least a group of 4 other GT students to work on projects periodically throughout the year is a goal.
Within a non-GT teacher's classroom, correct?
Yes,
okay.
sir, in the core content classes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Jones, did you have?
Thank you, Mr. President. Going back to the family and community involvement with your survey results, looking at the numbers and all of that, there seems to be a lower number of people responding back. Has there been thought into how we can get more? Because that's really good information for y'all to see how we can improve strengths or, help with weaknesses. How is there a way for that? Any insight on that?
Are you speaking in regards to the teacher communication or parents taking the actual survey?
Parents taking the actual survey, sorry.
Yes. So we had it open for one calendar week this year and had our GT facilitators also try to send information out, but it really came from support services out to the parents directly. We are looking for other ideas on how to increase that feedback, not just within the survey at the end of the year, but throughout the course of the school year within the GT Third Thursdays as an opportunity to give us that live feedback from parents. And we do have several parents that join those sessions with us, but just trying to be a little bit more proactive in getting information out to them about their GT child and what makes them tick and how their brain works.
Well, and I know some parents check their folders at the end of either Friday or the school year. So, I mean, it ranges, right, and all of that. So you never know which parent you're going to get. But I just think that's really good information. I'm glad that y'all do that. And the seminars, I'm excited to hear that you're going to offer them recorded and everything like that because life does get busy. And so, good job. I just want y'all to get the information y'all deserve.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I do have one question. So 2014 evaluations for GT services. So how long does each evaluation take for a teacher?
So we administer two different tests. They're both ability-based tests, a cognitive abilities test. The total test time is about 4 hours per student, but we split that up into 3 or 4 different settings. Always make sure with the student that they've had proper sleep the night before, that they're not feeling ill. We want them to put their best foot forward whenever we test, so that way we don't have that gray area if they don't qualify that year.
And you obviously you're able to, at certain times of the year, multiple kids are testing at the same time.
Yes.
But, I mean, that's a significant amount of hours for the teachers to just administer that and go through the assessment and to make their decisions with all of their panels. So, I mean, that sounds like that could almost be a full-time job in and of itself. In addition to,
it's definitely a stretch on, especially some of our larger campuses. Whenever we have a large volume of referrals, we do have 2 retired teachers that just can't seem to walk away, and so we're able to recruit them in to help administer those tests to help balance out that teacher time in the classroom.
Awesome. Yeah, that's outstanding. Thank you very much. All right. Any other questions, board members? Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is 5F, intruder detection audit findings. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. De La Rosa, page 20. And I'll just remind board members that obviously for specific questions, we will have to be in closed session for that. But
Thank
Mr.
you.
De La Rosa?
Thank you, sir. President Gardner, members of the board, Dr. Chapman, the Texas Education Agency initiated intruder detection audits in June 2022. As of May 16, 2024, TEA has completed these audits across all campuses within the Comal Independent School District. The following summarizes the key actions from the audits conducted in May 2024. Training for campus staff. In-person training was provided to all campus staff, emphasizing the importance of ensuring all exterior doors are properly closed, locked, and latched. Development of a school safety improvement plan. A comprehensive plan of action was developed to improve school safety procedures. This plan prioritizes the maintenance and timely completion of work orders related to exterior doors. Review of the District School Safety and Security Committee. The findings from the audits and subsequent corrective actions have been reviewed with the District School Safety and Security Committee and notification to the board. Specific details of the findings are prohibited from being discussed in open session as per TEA guidelines. As of this meeting, all necessary corrective actions have been completed in accordance with TEA guidelines. This concludes the presentation on the intruder detection audits and the corresponding corrective measures implemented. Comal ISD remains committed to the safety and security of its campuses, students, and staff.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Board members, any general questions you'd like to ask right now? No. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
The next agenda item is 5G, SHAC Annual Report. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Chapman. I have the great pleasure of introducing the Comal ISD School Health Advisory Council Parent Chair, Karen Luna Rodriguez, who's here this evening representing the SHAC for their 23-24 annual report.
Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Chapman, and any SHAC members present here with us in the audience tonight. My name is Karen Luna Rodriguez, and I serve as the 23-25 Comal ISD SHAC Parent Chair. We are here tonight to provide an annual report of the great work accomplished by Comal ISD and the SHAC during the 23-24 school year, and our appreciation of the board and district administration's continued support of health and wellness as a vital component of a child's education in Comal ISD. This school year, the Comal ISD SHAC held 5 general meetings and 5 subcommittee meetings, seeing an overall increase in attendance supported by campus SHAC in partnership with the PTA. The SHAC focused their efforts in the areas of fitness and physical activity, school gardens and nutrition, mental health and safe schools, and Comal ISD community wellness, Comal Fit. In fitness and physical activity, over 500 kinder through 5th grade students participated in the sports of volleyball, basketball, soccer, and sports stacking as part of the elementary intramural sport program. In secondary intramural sports, students from Memorial Early College High School and the Comal ISD fencing team were awarded top 3 in all tournament categories as Comal ISD continues as the first public school district to host a fencing tournament in the state of Texas. Morningside and Ferris-Spitzer Elementaries implemented Girls on the Run, a character development and physical activity program. The program will expand to Arlen Say Elementary School next school year. Comal ISD Kinder through 5 physical education and health teacher leader team has been selected to present at the state PE and health convention this upcoming winter. Many accomplishments were made this year through partnership with the American Heart Association in the district-wide implementation of the Kids Heart Challenge. As a result of the challenge, we honored Kai, a heart hero and daughter of one of our own Canyon Lake High School administrators. 350 Comal ISD families learned hands-only CPR. 348 learned how to identify and respond to a stroke through Finn's mission, and Comal ISD PE teachers received $9,000 in equipment support for their programs. In the areas of mental health and safe schools, the Health Services Department presented at the Comal County Health Fair to kick off the school year. State-mandated screenings were completed district-wide with assistance from the Lions Club. Comal ISD clinics served as public health rotations for TLU, WBU nursing, and Comal ISD health science students. And some clinic statistics for this year, including 127,000 nurse visits, over 83,000 medications administered, and over 15,000 procedures completed, which include things such as G-tube feedings, catheterizations, and diabetic care. Comal ISD counseling and student support provided crisis and trauma response training to all administrators, counselors, campus support specialists, and nurses, as well as campus-specific training for all campus staff. Counselors and campus support specialists supported students who experienced food insecurity by providing holiday food support with the help of the San Antonio Food Bank, which provided food for over 900 individual students this year. Middle and high school counselors supported students emotionally as they participated in the Forever 15 fentanyl education presentations about the harmful effects of fentanyl use. And counselors assisted with mental health needs of students to include facilitation of suicide protocols, threat assessments, non-suicidal self-injury protocols, and referrals to outside mental agencies for students to receive additional support. Through the efforts of the Comal Fit program, supporting students, staff, and community wellness, thanks to UBC, Over 300 donated prizes were given throughout the year to Comal ISD staff to celebrate and motivate them on their wellness journeys. $8,000 was raised through the Love of Run You're With 5K for the Food for Kids food program, which works with communities and schools school counselors to identify Comal ISD students and the household members who do not have reliable access to food on the weekends. And Huffman Lane Elementary School was awarded $1,000 for top precipitation and to put towards campus wellness efforts, thanks to a donation by the district healthcare provider. The Shack accomplished the following 23-24 goals by continuing to review of the Living Well Aware curriculum for the available 7th and 8th grade update and presenting the recommendation to the board for approval in December of 2023, which resulted in implementation of the update in spring of 2024. The Shack completed the 23-24 triennial assessment of the Comal ISD wellness policy and submitted our recommendations regarding wellness plan edits to the district administration for review. As we look ahead to the 24-25, the Shack plans to create a campus wellness plan assessment tool to create campuses and the district in monitoring progress and implementing the wellness plan, as well as provide necessary data for the next triennial assessment. Review the growing health legislation requirements and where/how are implemented in Comal ISD. Review opportunities for physical activity and nutrition education. Review school-based behavioral health supports. Continue to increase Shack participation and refocus Fit Snacks healthy concession menu options for expansion. Thank you for your continued support of the Comal ISD Wellness and the work of the Shack. We will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Excellent. That was a lot of amazing stuff. Thank you very much for that presentation. All right, board members, Ms. Biasotti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your presentation. I just have a couple comments. I am very impressed with the communication. I don't want to say it's increased, but it's awesome. Like you can't. Nobody can say that they can't be involved if they don't want to, especially with the runs, and the Comal Fit is awesome. So I think continue to do that communication. I wasn't able to attend any of the fentanyl presentations, but I know many families that did, and having it at multiple campuses I think is great, and I think we need to continue to do that. I actually know of a few families that went to one, just the husband and wife, and then they went to a different campus and brought their kids with them. So I think that's a great, if we can continue to do that. One question I have, and it may be because of my kid's age, but is there a opportunity for us to do a babysitting certification course for kids? I know they do that locally in town, I think at McKenna maybe, and at the hospitals, but maybe that's something that Comal could do once or twice a year in the summer even, where they can get that certification, basically CPR and the basics. So maybe something to look into.
That's a great idea. I'll take that feedback back.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, thank you for coming in and giving this presentation. I just want to point out there's a lot of stuff that's been done. Obviously, this presentation is great, but my kids participated in a number of different things within what the Shack is doing. So appreciate all the hard work as a parent and as a board member. So thank you.
Mr. Hennessy.
Mr. President, thank you for the presentation, Ms. Luna Rodriguez. That was a ton of information, and actually I know that those slides don't encompass everything that y'all have done throughout the year. That's just a very solid representation of what y'all have been doing, and I know that there are some other things as well. My question is related more to one of the slides that you pulled up. Might be for Ms. Smith to answer, but somewhere there was a bullet point that said that y'all were reviewing the school-based behavioral health supports. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and what that process looks like?
That's a great question. So the goals that were set by the SHAC were brainstormed at our last meeting, and behavioral health supports and how we're just supporting students in their mental health journeys came up. And so it's something that we're going to be working with Jennifer Garrigan closely next year as we kind of flesh out what that looks like.
Sure. And I love that idea for y'all to be involved as well as our counseling team. I'm sure y'all will have some crossover there as well. Definitely very important stuff that you do. One question, have we found any more grants for any more free bicycles?
We are still on the lookout, but
okay,
yes.
Fantastic. Great job. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to add no more questions, but one of my things in my LTASB this year, we saw went to a lot of districts and saw things where students were doing things where they were giving back to the community, especially through CT programs, and they were providing services for the community. So I noticed there in the with the health screenings that you're doing that our health science students were able to participate in that, and that's outstanding. So appreciate that, and obviously everything in the presentation. So thank you very much. All right, moving on to agenda item 5H, STAR 2024 update. Ms. Witherell.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, and Dr. Chapman. Tonight, administration is providing an update on the 2024 STAR administration. The STAR 3 through 8 program includes math, RLA, science, and social studies, while EOC, or our end-of-course assessments, include Algebra 1, Biology, English 1, English 2, and U.S. History. Beginning on page 24 of your board packet, administration has provided a summary of district and campus data. Meets grade level performance indicates that students have a high likelihood of success in the next grade or course. CISD data shows that meets grade level achievement on our EOC exams, grades 6 through 8, and grades 3 through 5 increased in some areas from 2023, but also presented opportunities for improvement. Comal ISD reviews data in many ways. We evaluate student achievement each year by grade level as well as our cohort growth. This slide shows a few examples of CISD cohort growth in meets grade level from 2023 to 2024. It is important that we analyze multiple views as TEA evaluates districts and campuses on both achievement and growth. District and campus leaders have already begun analyzing the 2024 assessment data. As shown on our planning and action timeline, there are multiple opportunities to identify priorities, revise and refine district and campus improvement plans before they come to you for review in August. We expect 2024 A through F ratings to be available for the September board report. Throughout the 24-25 school year, district and campus leaders will continue to collaborate and review data as we monitor student academic progress throughout the school year. Thank you. Mrs. Keller and I are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hennessy, I know you have some questions.
Yeah, I don't really want to go too far too deep, but obviously looking through this data, and thank you very much. We have the data wizard here, and the person that takes that data and crunches it into our kids and creates instruction that is ideal for us here in Comal. I just do want to point out publicly here that when we do get our STAR data back, we are also given data regarding the state as well as the region, those around us, And I did a little comparative. Of course, I want to be sure that we, Comal ISD, are standing out in our area, and we are certainly still doing that. As you mentioned, there are a couple of areas for opportunity, which I have no doubt you have already identified, and I'm sure Ms. Keller has a plan to go after those areas of opportunity. But I just want to point out again that Comal ISD is a great school district. When we take the comparatives of our STAR data to anybody around us, Comal is a fantastic place to be, and that's because of you ladies that take the data, find the reasons, create the curriculum that get our kids on the right path as we're trying to grow greatness here. So thank you very much. That's all that I will say for tonight.
Thank you, Mr.
For
Hennessy.
that.
That's it for tonight, all night? Okay, Mr. Krasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, thank you for the presentation, Ms. Witherall. I don't have, I think, in relation to Mr. Hennessy, I don't really have a lot that I want to, get into necessarily. I think my only comment here is that I hope we're looking at those that, I understand things fluctuate, things change, right? But if we're seeing approaches meet as masters, and we have a reduction in that we're really focusing on that. That's really my only take, and I'm sure y'all are on that. And as you mentioned, your timeline looks great. So I don't have a lot of feedback, but that's my only real comment. So thank you.
Thank you. And so to that point, you were still kind of crunching the data, right? And so, yeah. And like I said, so September is when we'll hear kind of the full kind of review, right? So, Dr. Chapman, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just have one quick thing. Is we, like I said, we'll dive into this at our September board workshop. We'll spend a little over an hour on it, but I was on a little conference call today with the commissioner, and he was not a happy camper with state scores, and so and he had a little breakdown on what happened on the state level, and he's wanting to dive a little deeper and even ask superintendents of what did y'all see, what's going on, and why did we see so many dips across the state? We didn't see that, necessarily in Comal ISD, but I look forward to hearing what he has to say as he brings some disaggregation of that data back to superintendents. He said in 1st of August, probably September, and then we can use that data too to kind of compare ourselves. And we don't compare ourselves with the state. That's not what I'm getting at, but we can look at trends and see what they're doing. Again, seeing his data today and looking at ours, always have opportunity to grow. We'll get better each and every day, but at least we're still moving that needle.
Excellent. Board members, any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. We will proceed to our next agenda item, number 6, consent agenda, which is on page 38. The consent agenda is a mechanism the board uses to approve a number of routine items together with a single vote. In compliance with Texas Open Meetings Act, the public notice for this meeting includes a list of all consent agenda items, and the board has been provided ample information about these items in advance, as well as we had the pre-meeting to ask further questions. Prior to any action taken on the consent agenda, board members may request withdrawal of individual items for clarification or discussion. Board members, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda at this time? Okay, hearing none and seeing none. Board members, do I have a motion regarding the consent agenda? Ms. Jones.
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? No. Okay, all those in favor? With a vote of 6 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion carries. Okay. The next agenda item is number 7. Oh, sorry. Yes. And we'll go to item 7B, consideration and possible approval of the 24-25 Student Code of Conduct. Mr. Wonderly.
Good evening. Good evening, President Gardner, board members, and Dr. Chapman. Tonight, the administration presents for your annual approval the 2024-2025 Comal ISD Student Code of Conduct. A summary of the recommended changes is provided to you behind the blue cover page. I'll give you a minute to pull that out. Recommended changes are based on TASB updates in alignment with Texas Education Code. I won't go through all the changes, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have related to such.
Excellent. Thank you. Board members. Mr. Hennessy.
Just a statement. I would like to say that thank you very much. I know that Mrs. Biasotti, I believe, asked for a summary of some of the recommended changes, and this looks like that performance of that work right there. This made it so easy to sit down and to look at the policy, to know exactly where things are and where they went. So thank you very much, Mr. Wunderlich, for producing this for us.
My counterpart tonight is Denise Ayala, who helps.
Thank you, Ms. Ayala.
With our work in this area as well.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Krasinski.
One quick question about, I know we have discussed, and I assume that nothing's changed from a state perspective around vaping and immediate removal to an alternative campus. Is that right?
No, sir, nothing has changed in that area.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Mr. President.
Mr. Hennessy.
I move to approve the 2024-2025 Student Code of Conduct as presented.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? The vote of 6 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay. So it appears I don't know how to read very well. So as Ms. Supak will be presenting tonight. Next, agenda item 7C, consideration and possible approval of the TASB policy review updates, final reading and adoption. Ms. Supak. And my comments still stand from the President's comment.
Thank you. And good evening, President Garner, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Chapman. This evening, administration is recommending approval of the TASB policy update review that began in December of 2023 in coordination with TASB, District and Campus Administration, and the Board of Trustees. In February, TASB consultant Eric Narcisse spent 2 days with 25 Comal ISD district administrative staff and campus staff, as well as board members, to review policy, practice, and alignment. From February to May, administration worked with Eric Narcisse to finalize policy recommendations that the board received in May. The current list of policies that you have represents proposed changes to the board policy manual and are intended to better reflect the district's current practices, omit provisions that are no longer necessary in policy, and align with current law. 41 local policies are recommended for addition, revision, or deletion. Administration is also recommending the removal of regulations and exhibits from the board policy manual that is adopted by the board. Eric Narcisse mentioned this during his presentations on May 8th to the board, and regulations and exhibits will now be located in administrative regulations. Currently, anytime the district modifies a regulation or an exhibit, which could be a required name and a change of district personnel, the district would have to contact TASB, pay a fee for the change, and work with TASB on the change. This change will allow district personnel to make the change, and the change would be immediately reflected in the regulations. The regulations will still be linked to board policy online and available online. The first reading of the policy updates was on May 16th, and tonight's action item would authorize approval of the 41 policy updates that would be reflected on June 28th in our board policy manual. I would also like to recognize that TASB-initiated policy updates will still be brought to the board, as Update 123 was just recently released and will be brought to the board in August. I appreciate the board working with administration on this policy update through the last 7 months, and I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Yeah, excellent. So I'll just start out by saying I think there's literally thousands of man-hours dedicated to this effort, right, by yourself, several members of the cabinet, several members of the staff. I'm happy to say that all of the board members were actively participating in this effort in their reviews, asking great questions, and so this is a great team effort, and certainly just what you described is certainly needed. Some of the efficiencies we've gained and some of the ways we can better align things and not have to go to TASB for every little thing, because we've set our processes and the regulations versus the policies better. So that's awesome. So very happy with everyone's effort on this. And so board members, are there any questions that we haven't already asked? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Hennessy.
I move to approve the modifications, updates, and revisions to local board policies as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion on policy? Okay. All those in favor? All right. With a vote of 6 in favor and 0 opposed, The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Supak. The next item is 7D, consideration and possible approval of the 24-25 maintenance and operations interest and sinking child nutrition budgets. Mr. Glenn Graham.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members, Dr. Chapman. Tonight, I will give you a brief overview of the budgets to be presented and proposed for adoption. There are two documents in your extras and board book. The one document is a lot more detail. We're just going to briefly go over the highlights or lowlights, however you want to say, of the budget. But there, like I said, the budget book is in your extras and board book. And if you have any questions about that at any time after tonight or whatever, feel free to get in touch with me. So tonight we're going to talk about, again, the general fund. By law, you have to adopt the general fund, the debt service, and the child nutrition fund. This budget process started about 6 months ago in January when we started getting student population projections. And your final step in this process will be to adopt a tax rate in August. Once certified values are certified in July. As always, when we build a budget, we built it to support the goals and objectives of the district, strategic priorities. Again, these are in the strategic plan of the district, and the budget is built to support those priorities. As far as funding, there's three main drivers to funding in school finance. First is the students, your enrollment, your average daily attendance, and the populations of those students. Second thing is your property values, local and state contribution according to those property values, and homestead exemption also plays a part. The third thing is your tax rate, and especially with your enrichment pennies with TRE as far as Comal ISD is concerned. There's some budget assumptions that we base the revenues on. First thing is we do have to abide by legislative laws and the laws that are in place at the 88th legislative session that ended last year. So we will be entering our second year of the biennium. We are going to estimate an enrollment of 30,235, and that's determined by the district's demographer. I built this budget on an average daily attendance rate of 27,907. That's 92.3% of that 30,235. Now, in the last few years, our ADA has been about 94, but our demographics have been a little high. So basically what I'm doing is just building in some insurance here in case we don't reach that enrollment figure of 3235. So anyway, I will let you know that I did the calculations the other day, and 1% increase in attendance rate is about $2.1 million. So every percentage we can go up, that's an additional $2.1 million that we would receive in state aid. Also, at the values as of now, there's 8.10% increase in both local and state property taxes. As I mentioned, those values won't be certified till July, but as of right now, the latest estimates from the appraisal districts, that's what they are anticipating. And also, we also base the budget on a 98% collection rate on your current taxes. Now, usually with delinquents and penalty and interest, it usually always reaches 100%. But we do budget on 98% collection rate in taxes. The budget is also built on a projected tax rate of 0.7369 cents for maintenance and operations and 35 cents for debt service. Again, those will not be adopted till August once the values are certified. This just gives a historical reference of what tax rates have done. Obviously, they've dropped quite a few pennies over the years. Most of that is with state compression, state tax compression, and the current efforts to eliminate property taxes. We'll go over the general fund. This will be the 24-25 proposed budget. We anticipate revenues of a little over $300 million. That's $28 million more than what we received this year. mainly due to the fact that, well, there's several factors. We do anticipate additional ADA. We do anticipate additional fast growth allotments, special ed allotments, career and technology allotments. So again, that's where we anticipate in local revenues. The $17 million is because the property values have gone up and the fact that the tax rate has not been compressed this year. So we will realize that those are enrichment dollars, and they are not most are not subject to recapture. State aid, again, that $12 million, again, is what I mentioned, enrollment increases and special population. The federal aid program there's been some changes to our SHARS reimbursement, and honestly, we're getting to the point, and I've talked to many CFOs across the state, is it starting to get to a point where it's not even worth participating because of all the labor that goes into it, all the time it takes, and plus we also outsource a lot of that, and we have to pay our vendor to take care of that. So we'll be analyzing that in the future if those funds do not increase. But that's the reason you show a decrease in federal funds. We'll move on to expenditures, but before we get there, the biggest expenditure in school budgets are payroll, and it's the reason why 80% of your budget is in payroll. And so this outlines a little bit of why our payroll costs will increase for next year. Obviously, we have growth every year. We have to budget for that. We open a new campus next year, one that's brand new and one that's got a new but it was already here, but we still had to add staff to that. Also, some SPED positions that we increased again to offset the increase in SPED populations. And then our ESSER money is coming to an end, and we have some positions that need to be absorbed in the general fund. We have some campus instructional coaches that we were paying out of title money that needed to be moved to general fund for compliance issues. As you know, you were very generous to the employees of the district and adopted a 3% across-the-board compensation increase. That is in here. As also, we increased the substitute rate. As you know, with as many vacancies, we desperately need substitutes, and it's kind of supply and demand. As the demand increases, the supply goes down, and so we had to raise that in order to keep our substitutes. And then we had some special ed stipend increases just to keep up with market. And then we also had some athletic and other equity adjustments for salaries that needed some immediate attention and because of market. As you will later, you will adopt the budget based on function level. And so we anticipate expenditures of a little over $320 million. That's an increase of about $50 million on what we are going to spend this year. But we'll get into this a little bit later. We don't really anticipate spending all that $320 either. You adopted a $305 million budget last year, and you only spent, or this year, and we only anticipate spending about $280. But that includes all positions. As we mentioned in our workshops, that includes all positions, and also we can identify about a little over $8 million in positions that we haven't filled in the last 2 years. So we don't anticipate that happening either. But I did want to put it in the budget and present to you tonight a worst case scenario, so to speak. Also, just to give you an update on fund balance, we began this year at $92.8 million in fund balance. Projected revenue this year is $272. Projected expenses for this year around $280. So that will leave you a fund balance at the end of this month of $84.8 million. So in summary, we're looking at proposed revenues for next year of $301.3 and expenditures of $320.1, and that's a deficit of $18.8. As I mentioned just a little while ago, we don't anticipate spending 100%. The last 2 years, we have spent right at 92% of our budget. We've really gleaned that budget. We anticipate we'll probably spend a little bit more than 92%, but again, that really kind of depends on if we fill vacancies. If we do only spend 97% and we collect the revenues as anticipated, that would leave us a deficit at the end of the year of a little over $9 million. If we spend 95% of the proposed expenses, we're looking at a deficit of about 2.8. In today's environment, I think that's livable for now. But obviously, we can't continue to live on deficit budgets moving forward, so we have steps in place to take care of that. Any questions on general fund before I move on to debt service?
Mr. Krasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just real quick, the state aid that you had mentioned, the increase, isn't necessarily tied. It's not tying our hands to using those dollars in a specific way. I know you mentioned a couple different programs, but I didn't catch all of them. But
right,
is the state tying our hands with those funds and have to be used in a certain way?
Some of them do. There are allotments, like special ed, you have to spend 55% of whatever you do get. So, yeah, there are allotments and there are spending requirements on some of those. Main reason on the additional state aid is the fact that part of what we lost in property tax is being held harmless by the state because of the laws. Not 100% of that. As I mentioned in workshop, we are losing enrichment monies that is not being replaced by state aid, but it does include some of the hold harmless that we've lost in just our basic allotment entitlements.
Good. Thank you. That was a question I needed answered as well. Thanks.
Debt service, I'm sorry?
We got one more. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. So on the cost for staffing request slide, I don't know what number it is, but I think you just mentioned, ESSER, the movement of the ESSER to general fund. That won't be there anymore. The CIC's having to move. I think it's important to just reinforce that we're always going to have these new schools opening, right, and staffing of the new schools from here on out every few years, if not every year.
Yes, ma'am.
But tell me, just for clarification, the positions for growth for staffing formulas versus the schools that are listed, is that first line just open positions?
Yeah, those positions are based on enrollment and based on our staffing ratios. Okay. So, we're anticipating a little over 800 new students next year. And so we anticipate that and build in the staffing FTEs to accommodate those new students.
And then the Bulverde Middle School and Hill Country, they've already been staffed.
Right. Well, a lot of staff will move over, but we do have custodial staff, administration, counselors, assistant principals and such.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, your debt service fund is to fund the debt obligation of the district. As you know, districts issue debt in order to build buildings, and we have to go out and sell bonds in order to do that, and then we pay those back with tax collections. So for next year, and I will we'll touch on this a little bit. We have $448,000 million that we have authorized still to sell, and so we will come up later and ask for your authorization. But I have built in as if we were going to sell every penny of that. Okay, so if we don't, we'll come back later with a budget amendment. And so anyway, the revenues won't change, but the expenditures will. Based on current property values and a 35-cent tax rate, I anticipate that we will collect a little over $100 million in taxes. And then we'll have some interest as other local revenue on the money that we do have on hand. And also state revenue. The state did districts hold harmless on the money, tax revenue they would lose on debt that was authorized. So anything that we've been authorized, the state will hold harmless. So if we do issue the 448, that's why you see the big jump here. The state will come back and pay what we had lost in tax value. So that number will go down if we do not issue all 448, because then they won't have as much. But they will hold that harmless for as long as we do issue it. Any debt that's authorized after that will no longer be held harmless. So our principal and interest payment for next year, if we sell all 448, is $112 million. We have some other fees, so we anticipate expenditures about $112 Again, fund balance and our debt service begin this year at 20.9. We project revenue of 104 and expenses a little over that, so we will have 19.4 million left in fund balance for debt service beginning next year, which is good because we do anticipate a little bit of a loss next year. Again, this is based on values. If the values go up a little bit more by certification, then your revenues will go up as well. But we'll use, based on estimates right now, about 1.3 of that fund balance. But again, that payment for next year is really front-loaded. If we do sell all that 448, we're going to pay a big chunk of it up front, so in order to save interest costs over the life of the bond. So it's really a heavy payment in the first year, and it'll drop after that. Any questions on debt service?
The fund balance there was about 20 million. When did we last do the defeasance? That was before you got here, I think.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think there was a refunding right when I got here, right before I got here was a refunding.
Okay.
But yes, you can only use that money either to pay down debt or pay your current debt obligation.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
Can I ask it? I'll throw the newbie card here. Local property taxes revenue, why is that anticipated to go down from 105 to 102?
I'm sorry. Well, it's basically that a budget is really higher than it should be, because actually we did not amend that budget. That's really an adopted budget, and it was based on old law, and so we did not anticipate collecting that much. So, and we didn't. We're only going to collect about 98 million on that. We didn't, because again the laws changed, taxes froze, and so it wasn't such a big gap that I needed to bring a budget amendment to you for debt service.
But I guess the point there is that's the increased homestead exemption, right? That's what's
right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's on the overall. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. Child nutrition budget. We anticipate, based on past sales and anticipated sales, and again, these sales are also based on new enrollment. Anytime you increase students, you're going to increase your sales as far as your meals served. So we anticipate revenues of 14.7. It's a little bit lower, but again, we didn't quite reach that amount this year, so we've adjusted a little bit down. So we anticipate around 14.7 million in meals and a la carte sales. We anticipate about 18.1 million in expenditures, and the reason being, and I'll show you here in just a minute, we have a fund balance of about $6.9 million in child nutrition. TDA will not allow us to carry that much. They only allow us about 3 months of operating, and we do a little over $1 million. So they're making us spend down that money. So if you go back here, a lot of that expenditure is also going to be buying new equipment, buying new cafeteria tables, refresh on a lot of the old cafeterias. So we have to spend down $3 million according to TDA. So we're going to have revenues of 14.7 and then spend down $3 million. So we're going to spend down that 6.9 and end up with about 3.6 when it's all said and done with. So we anticipate a deficit in the child nutrition, spend down that fund balance of 3.3. And then I just have a brief summary of all funds. Again, you will adopt funds only on the expenditure side and by function level only. So these are the breakouts of each fund that you will adopt and by function. So tonight I would ask that you adopt the budgets as presented.
All right, Mr. Graham, I am certain we have some questions. I know we will have some statements. We might actually need to put a soapbox out here so that we can all get on here. And I'll just say first off, thank you to you and your staff for just, this is probably, in my experience, the most difficult budget season. There's so many unknowns, so many things working from behind, and Really appreciate all the hard work, and I know there's been some sleepless nights and some stress and strain as we try to figure this out with kind of where the state legislators has put our back against the wall. But I won't steal the thunder of my fellow board members, so we'll start over here with Mr. Krasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, thank you for the presentation. We've talked at length about this over the last. We kind of knew this was coming, but this isn't a surprise, right? Legislation put us here. I think every school district, and maybe Dr. Chapman can back me up here, every school district in the state of Texas is feeling some sort of pain about this, right? But we've been arguably one of the top 5 most conservative districts as far as how we're financially handling our taxpayers' money, and this is the reality that we're facing. So I appreciate all of your work and your staff's work to get us to this point, to be able to at least predict the future to an extent, right? Thank you, and I'll leave it to my other trustees to expand.
Thank you, Mr. Krasinski. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week at TASB's summer conference, I heard some stats that just really opened my eyes. One is that 97% of school district budgets are mandated by the state. The state is constitutionally required to fund 50% of public education. They're down around 37%, plus the fact that we haven't seen an increase in the allotment in, it'll be 6 years. I applaud you and your team. You have brought us along, very, very carefully and kept us informed with, the decisions being made behind, some of the numbers. And I applaud you for coming up with I think a really great budget. The fact that we are able to do a 3% pay increase, I think is very, very healthy for our long term. So I'm very thankful that we can do that. I guess I would just, speak to everybody to this state of Texas, the ledge has to do better for public education than it's doing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Definitely a lot of sleepless nights, but like Mr. Krasinski said, we saw this coming. We hoped it wouldn't. So I applaud your efforts and your team's efforts, knowing that we were going down a path with state legislation doing what they're doing for public school children education. It's the kids that we're talking about. When you talked about how much goes to staffing, because we're staffing for the kids of Comal and ultimately all across the state of Texas for other school districts as well. I appreciate your transparency. It's not always fun to see the numbers, but it's the reality that we are in. I'm very displeased with state legislation. I hope that they are watching not only just ours, but all across the state of Texas. But I do want to commend you for working through those numbers with what we are given, even though we still have some unknowns that we're trying to figure out, which is just so incredibly hard to do, and you're doing it. And I also want to take the time for this board up here, for Dr. Chapman. We're trying to advocate. We're trying to get out there and let them know how much we need this. It's not a want, it's a need. And so thank you all to our making this known, because, like I said, it's for the kids. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
Ms. Pisani.
Thank you. I'm going to just ask one question. I think everybody is on the same page here. Can you explain to me why TEA wants us to keep our child nutrition fund balance at a certain level?
Well, they really don't see it as a business. They really don't see it as an enterprise. There's some, questions about that, but they really don't want you to make a lot of profit off a child's breakfast and lunch, and I understand that. But what's ironic about it is the fact that they will then come back later and say, no, you need to raise lunch prices because you're not being equitable. So there's a lot of things TDA does that makes me scratch my head, and so. But at any rate, I really don't know. It's just the way it's been, and I guess they feel that if you're just, you can't do anything with that money anyway. It's not like all of a sudden I can start giving raises to teachers. You have to use it for child nutrition. But at any rate,
and I appreciate the eyes to keep it on the children, right? And but spending it to buy things that, I mean, at a district our size, yes, we always need things. That $3 million, I'm assuming, will go real quick with new things. So I know we will spend it wisely, but like you mentioned, then coming back and saying, but you need to up your prices, it's so backwards to me.
Right,
so
right.
I was just making sure I wasn't missing anything.
No, it's I really can't give you a really great answer, to be honest.
I understand, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Mr. Hennessy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, thank you, Ms. Shaw, for the stats that you shared with me just a minute ago. I know that we were at TASB at the same time, but we were certainly in different rooms, and I know you had a wonderful weekend as well as I did. I learned a lot, and I'm excited to bring that back to this district. We did talk about unfunded mandates a little bit while we were up there. I just want to point out to the rest of our board members and to those of you in the public that are watching tonight, when we raised our hands a little bit earlier this evening, we effectively almost spent around $14.5 million, the majority of which I would dare to say are somewhat unfunded mandates by the state. That includes our software tracking. I asked a question earlier about CEV multimedia, but also included in that package that we approved this evening, we're also talking about our safety and security. Just a real quick add-up, if we look at Comal County, Bexar County, and the city of Bulverde, we're spending right near just under $3.5 million a year to have officers on every single campus in our district. That's something that we believe in as a board up here. We agreed that that is something that is necessary and required for the students of our district. I point that out because that is an unfunded mandate. That is money that we are spending to keep our kids safe and secure that the state is not helping us with. They've given us $15,000 per campus for this next school year for safety and security. We are miles beyond that. I'm proud of the budget that we've passed tonight. I'm proud of the things that we've done tonight. It's very, very frustrating to know that we are just trying our darndest to grow these kids and grow greatness here, and we're just not seeing that support from Austin, Texas, and our legislatures. This has been a difficult process to go through doing a budget, a deficit budget. That's just something that we don't want to have here in Comal ISD. We've struggled for many years, even prior to me sitting here on this board, to be the best stewards financially to our taxpayers. And I'm proud to say that we still are excellent stewards to our taxpayers' money. Thank you. That's really just a statement.
Thank you, Mr. Hennessy. Okay, so we were hoping for a visit from one of our state legislators tonight, but she did not attend. She still has never been to our school district, but I did ask Dr. Chapman and his staff members to provide a few facts for us, and I think you probably compiled these, so you probably know them. But I think it's important to understand that, to Mr. Krasinski's point, yeah, we've certainly been one of the most fiscally conservative districts in the state of Texas. There's only 2 districts in the state of Texas, us and Lake Travis, that have a 20% homestead exemption, for local homestead exemption for taxpayers. So, and yet, despite that, we have always, up until this year, had a balanced budget. So what does that 20% optional homestead exemption provide to our taxpayers? Just in the M&O budget alone, that saves our taxpayers $39 million. So what could that $39 million do? That could provide pay raises that would put us above every other local district just for our staff. For example, for a homeowner in Comal County with the average size home, the median value home, our taxpayers pay $3,200 in taxpayers. All the surrounding districts, same size home, same value home, pay $4,400 in taxes. So we're saving each individual taxpayer about $1,200. Additionally, due to the state legislators are doing an awesome job of helping our taxpayers with their humongous rainy day fund. But what it's done for us is because we've had the homestead exemption, our taxpayers have been willing to provide TRE enrichment. They've voted in favor of the TRE for us, the last one in 2021. But with that additional homestead exemption from the state, we're losing about $20 million out of those funds. That again, and oh, by the way, we're at an $18 million deficit budget. So the state legislature, again, doing a great job helping the taxpayers, but to Mr. Hennessy's point, a tremendous amount of unfunded mandates. He just provided one of many examples. So we are Baxter against the wall with the state. 2019 funding, which puts us at, given 25% inflation since 2019. Additionally, so a couple things I learned when I was at Fort Worth last week. 2018 when we got the just over $1,000 increase to basic allotment. In those dollars, we are now $300 below that in our spending per child. In when you compare same dollars, and so if we were able to get we did a little exercise, my class in El Tasby, and for an average school district, if you could get a basic allotment increase, put half of it towards teacher pay increases, with about a $600 basic allotment increase, you could give your teachers or your staff about a 5% pay raise. So you take the 300 and the 600. There's roughly $1,000 would do nothing but kind of keep us whole if the state legislature was to provide a $1,000 basic allotment increase. But nonetheless, the governor continues to play hardball, and so I have faith in our staff, our leadership, that we're going to do the right things. We're going to find every which way. If funding increases become targeted, I know we're going to optimize those and maximize those for our district. But we do have to Ms. Jones' point, we have to advocate. We have to be more active in the advocacy part, and that's been a large part of my last year, learning about advocacy and leadership TASB. And so I certainly commend Dr. Chapman for his leadership in that area with the Legislative Action Committee. And I know it's frustrating when it's like you keep banging your cranium against the wall. But I appreciate your leadership in that area, and I encourage all of us, like Ms. Jones said, to get involved with that. So I think we've beat this dead horse. So do I have a motion? Mr. Krasinski.
I move to approve the 2024-2025 maintenance and operations, interest and sinking, and child nutrition budgets as presented.
Second.
Is there any further discussion or soapbox moments? Soapbox? No. Okay. All in favor? Okay. With a vote of 6 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion carries. And I will say, just Mr. York couldn't be here tonight, but he certainly shares our concerns and our appreciation for your efforts in this area. So.
Thank you, Board. I do want to just say kudos to my staff. Obviously this is a great task, and Justine Swick is my budget director, and she handles the expenditure side, and her spreadsheet's about as complicated as that state aid. She whips through those things, and my head spins, and then she comes out with a number, and then appreciate Jenny Hill's efforts in helping me with my revenues this year, because believe me, every time the laws change, Jenny has just as much experience as I do, and so she really cracked down on that and helped me kind of help interpret those laws and figure out what our tax money. So big kudos to those ladies.
All right, thank you. I think you're staying right here. Bear with me as I read this long paragraph. The next item is 7E, consideration and possible approval of an order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of Comal Independent School District unlimited tax school building bonds in one or more series at one or more times, levying a continuing direct annual ad valorem tax for the payment of the bonds, authorizing an authorized representative to approve the amounts, interest rates, prices, and terms thereof, and certain other agreements, procedures, and provisions related thereto, and approving other matters incident and related thereto. Mr. Graham.
Yeah, that's easy. Thank you, Mr. President, board members, Dr. Chapman. Tonight we're going to ask for your approval or authorization to go ahead and issue additional debt to meet with our capital project needs. We're still kind of deciding on what to do on this because, it's kind of, and I hate to play the market, and if I was good at it, I probably would be in New York and not here. I really try to kind of figure out what's going on. We sure don't want to sell bonds at a high interest rate, and then as soon as we do, we start dropping, and then next thing we can't earn interest on it. But we're going to decide. We also have to really want to wait for our values to be certified, so I know exactly what this 35 cents is going to generate before we obviously over-obligate ourselves. But if the market's right and we feels good, I think it'd be beneficial to go ahead and issue the remaining authorized debt. Therefore, we know our capital projects will be funded, and we can invest those funds while the projects are going on. But we haven't quite made exactly that decision yet. But anyway, I'm going to turn the podium over to Mr. Dwayne Westerman. He's with Samco, and Samco serves as the district's financial advisor, and he'll go through some numbers for you.
Thank you, Glenn. Good evening, President Garner, Dr. Chapman, members of the board. Pleasure to be here. Humberto Aguilera, Escamilla and Ponick Bond Counsel, Legal Bond Counsel is here, as well as Nick Westerman. So happy to be here again with you and go through this process. I know many of you have done it several times, and some are new to it. So tonight, as Mr. Graham mentioned, we're considering an order authorizing the issuance of the bonds. This is called a parameter or delegated order, which is what you've done before. These bonds are from the May 6, 2023 election, and as he mentioned, selling these bonds, they were before the new legislation, so these bonds would hold harmless funds from the state, so that's a positive. The idea, as he mentioned, is to get the certified values. We look to price and issue the bonds sometime in the August time frame and have the funds in hand in September time frame. So the new money portion, as we've gone through this, would not require an increase in the INS tax rate. And as you approved already tonight a budget in that regard, it would stay at 35 cents. The new money issuance, and I know this could change. We've just looked at different scenarios that range from $250 million to the full $488 million that was authorized. That's still remaining of the authorized. We are also including refunding of some of the district's outstanding bonds. This would be to achieve debt service savings, and we'll look at that in a little bit more in a moment. So our assumptions, just to give you what we were looking at, is growth for this year, as he had mentioned, of 8.1%, then 6% growth in the taxable values going forward. We've used a tax collection factor of 96%. And we have used an effective rate on the current scenarios of the bonds at 4.85, and currently that is about 40 to 50 basis points higher than what the market is showing today. And just reiterating, the growth in the values that the district has seen, the past refundings and defeasances. The last defeasance was 2 years ago, Mr. Garner. We had the new issue last year, so we weren't able to do a defeasance. It was the year prior. That was the last one. And then the successful issuance of previous bond sales at lower than anticipated rates are allowing us to be able to go forward and do this again without a tax rate increase. So your approval tonight will approve the issuance of the bonds given certain parameters. And those parameters are a maximum principal amount, and this is inclusive of the new money and the refunding we'll show here. So the total amount potentially is $686,750,000. The new money portion, $488,000 authorized by the voters. The refunding portion is $198,750,000. So the refunding we would not issue, just to make clear again, we would not issue any more bonds than what is outstanding. It would be that amount or less, and it would have to achieve savings and be paid off within the same time frame or faster than it originally was stated. The maximum maturity of all of this would be February 1 of 2050, which is in line with our current outstanding debt and what our plan has been all along. The maximum interest rate, this one's a little higher than the market, but we want to give ourselves flexibility. It's showing at 5.5%. And then the minimum savings on the refunding is we would need to achieve a minimum savings of 2% present value savings. And that measurement, that parameter is on the refunding only. So today, currently that refunding is showing a savings of, it's actually a little higher. It was a little higher this week, a little over $10 million. This is a history. I know it's a page we've gone over many times, but just to reiterate what the boards have done, this board and previous boards as far as refundings and defeasances, and if we were to move forward with this refunding and garner this savings of close to $10 million or more, that would bring the total savings achieved since 2004 of almost $190 million in interest costs. So, and wrapping up is just a quick look at our interest rates. As we've seen, interest rates have been increasing. We keep thinking they're about to go down. We don't ever quite seem to get there. We have had a slight move here in the last couple of weeks where rates have come down a little bit, but this week we've spotted a little bit of a trend of creeping back up a bit. But we're still in a nice range. We're in the between 4 and 4.5% is where a new issue, if we went out right now, where we believe we would be. So we'll be happy to answer any questions. I know Mr. Aguilera would as well.
Thank you, Mr. Westerman. All right. Mr. Krasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the presentation. The refunding, so that is basically what's outstanding?
It's refunding a Series 2015 and 2016 bonds that are currently outstanding. Yes, they were sold in 2015 and 2016.
Okay.
And right now they actually are already callable, which means you could pay them off or refund them. And we've just been kind of waiting with the interest rates, trying to get the most efficiency out of them as we can.
So the maximum principal amount of $686 million is mainly, that is all of our debt service combined, correct?
Well, it's all that it's the two issues that we're looking at refunding, the Series 15 and 16, and then the new money authorization.
No, okay, got it. That's not everything. Understood. And then as far as the mixture of bonds that y'all are looking to go out for is mainly what? Obviously, you've got some that are going to be shorter than others, but is the majority going to be on that 30-year timeline or 10-year timeline?
It will be across. So we have, and we didn't put the maturity, the time I didn't put the maturity schedule in there to show you, but we can show you a maturity schedule. And as Mr. Graham had mentioned, we actually have structured the district's debt service along the way that so there's always some drops, and we're able to put a significant amount of principal in that first year's payback, and then it's kind of spread over the rest of those 30 years or so. Okay. So it will be spread over an amortization schedule. It's not exactly like your home mortgage where your annual payment is the same every month. We kind of try to structure it with the district's help to meet what your future needs are and knowing what's coming down the line.
Okay. I had one more question, but I forgot what it was. Come back to me if I think of it.
Mr. Hennessy.
Thank you. Did I miss, are we going to ladder these sales, or this was a one-time issuance? Or
this is giving us the opportunity to have one issuance to sell the remaining authorization. It keeps us the option, depending upon what decide with Dr. Chapman, Mr. Graham, as far as whether we're going to sell all of that 488 now, or we're going to divide it up.
But we could potentially ladder that a little bit at least, right? I think the effective interest rate that you're looking at is pretty darn good, so I would be okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
And it fits. I mean, fortunately, we've with your blessing, we've been conservative in those scenarios looking forward, so this all still fits together with those rates.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is more just for educational for me. Under assumptions with estimated effective interest rate at 4.85, in parentheses, it's approximately 40 to 50 basis points. What does that mean a little bit more in
sorry.
detail?
So
It's okay.
that means that if we sold today, we use 4.85, the rate would be like 4.35 to 4.45%. So basis points are those decimal amount.
Got it. Okay.
Points after
I didn't
the
know if I was
decimal.
missing some lingo or anything
Right?
like that.
No, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Krasinski,
All right,
you got
I'm
the
back.
question back.
Fixed versus variable rate. Obviously, you're talking about a fixed rate, right? This is not
Yes.
a variable rate anything.
No, these would be traditional fixed rate. Yes.
Okay. And then, are you buying down these rates? Are you happy with the market that's there with the rates that you got? Is there? I don't even know if you can buy down the rate.
You really can't buy down the rates in this. So
I had no idea. Okay.
yes.
Sure. How's it? I assume you sold some other debt here recently. How's that gone?
It's gone. We had an issue a couple of weeks ago for Marion ISD as an example. That was when market was very strong. It was hot, and we had a very good sale, a lot of demand. We sold some bonds this week. We still had good demand. It wasn't a blowout, if you will. It wasn't more demand than we had supply, but it went well, and we ended up getting a rate in the 4.38% range for probably a longer average structure than what you're looking at. So it's the demand is there. There's still, and we have other things. Obviously, with the May elections, there's a lot of new authorizations. Those districts will be coming to market starting this week through the next several weeks into the summer. But then in our world of tax exempts, the interest payment dates, because of when your tax dollars come in, are on February 1 and August 1, or in the months of February and August. So there's a lot of money that comes back in all these portfolios in August. So that provides more dollars to buy new bonds.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so good questions, and yeah, I'll just say, hey, I really appreciate the information. Appreciate our partnership with you, and certainly your continuity with us in this area has been critical, and you can see with all of the fees and savings over the years, and I think we have a solid plan, and so really appreciate the information this evening. Board members, do I have a motion? Mr. Hennessy.
President.
Mr. Hennessy.
I move to approve the order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of the Comal ISD unlimited tax school building and/or refunding bonds in one or more series at one or more times as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? With a vote of 6 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. The next agenda item is number 8, closed session as authorized under Texas Government Code, including but not limited to sections 551.071.072.074.076.082.081, 084, and .089. Item A, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.076, discuss and deliberate the deployment specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices, or to deliberate a security audit, review intruder detection audit findings. Item 8B, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072, discuss the purchase, exchange, sale, lease, or value of property, review land purchase for elementary number 22 and middle school number 9. Audience members are welcome to remain in the boardroom if you really want to be here. As board members at recess for deliberations, the time is now 8:14 p.m. We are now reconvening in open session, and the time is 9:19 p.m. Announcements. Please keep Amanda Jones and her family in your prayers this weekend as they celebrate the life of her father, Craig Hughes Evans. There will be no July board meeting. Dr. Chapman, Ms. Shaw, and I will be attending the Holdsworth Texas School Board Institute July 25 to 28 in Austin, Texas. We will kick off the second session of Comal U on July 29th at 8:30 a.m. Please plan to attend and be at Davenport High School's PAC by 8 a.m. Our opening of school ceremony will be held at the Strahan Arena on Wednesday, August 7th. I'll just take a picture of this and send it to you all. Yeah. We will have a groundbreaking ceremony for Elementary School 23 and Middle School 9 on August 8th. The following week, we will have 2 ribbon cutting ceremonies for the new high school Hill Country College Prep campus and for Bulverde Middle School. The first day of the 24-25 school year is Tuesday, August 20th. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on Thursday, August 22nd at 6 p.m. in the Support Services Boardroom. Ladies and gentlemen, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 9:21 p.m.